One of the biggest caveats with this whole living shindig is the fact that every one of us is going to die. I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, your friends are gonna die, your family's gonna die. And that's a sad reality, but it doesn't have to be. Death is a topic I'm beyond infatuated with. It's one that I frequently like to ponder about, one I enjoy talking about, and assuredly I love to write about it. But ironically, once upon a time, similarly to many people, I couldn't even bear to think about death. There was times in my life where I was even bitterly scared of the fact that I wouldn't wake up, or worse, that I would meet my death by unnatural means. And then, I read the Stoics, and my fear pretty much disappeared. Later on, I started pursuing Christ, and my relationship with death completely changed. That's not what we're here to talk about. I remember vividly being maybe 7 or 8 years old. I was in the back seat of my mom's minivan. My mom and my brother, one of my brothers, were up front, and we were in the McDonald's drive-thru. I'm sitting in the back seat waiting, and I just had this sudden pit in my stomach, the largest pit I've ever felt. Just a sinking feeling. Because I had realized at that young age that one day I just wasn't going to wake up, that one day I would die and there's no way around it, and I just, for the rest of that night, probably the preceding days as well, I was just, man, I was all sorts of torn up. I just couldn't even fathom it, and to this day sometimes it's still hard to fathom, because we don't know what happens after we die. That's sort of an aside, that's not part of the main discussion here, but talking about that provoked that memory and I just wanted to share it. And whether you fear it, accept it, or hell, even if you look forward to it, the Grim Reaper is coming for us all. Time ain't gonna stop ticking. If you've lived on this plane long enough, I'd wager that you have encountered death as a spectator, whether on a first-hand account or, at the very minimum, you've read of deaths online or seen them in the news. It's hard to avoid nowadays. Thankfully, I'd say I've been pretty blessed to have had limited interactions with death thus far. In my time, I've lost 2 grandparents and 1 friend, but when compared to many, I think my encounters are pretty modest. But beyond just death, there's also other forms of loss in store for us, such as the loss of romantic partners or friends, jobs, opportunities, youth, and even health. And hell, those latter 2 are just as inevitable as death is. In fact, I think we can even say without a shred of doubt that they are both common stepping stones found on the road to the grave. And personally speaking, besides from death, I've also experienced the loss of friends, partners, and even though they were losses, some of them were for the better. And I think it's important to note, even when a loss pans out in your favor, there's usually still a part of us that's pained in some way. This is a natural reaction. Humans like homeostasis. A loss throws that out of balance. So, like I said, even if it is in some regard comforting to have lost whatever subject, there's no way around a certain level of grief. It's sort of built into us. Take, for instance, a rough romantic relationship that may or may not have been going on for too long. Though you may be met with a sense of relief when it's over, part of you is still going to be pained by that loss of familiarity. And this is especially common because for a lot of people, we consider romantic partners to be constant forces in our lives rather than conditional ones. And then once that force is lost, due to the attachment that was built between the 2 people, there's evidently empty space in your life. And even if the relationship wasn't healthy, there's still this loss, there's still this gap. But to get back to the main point, life is filled with losses, and there's unfortunately no way around it. It's built into the human condition, and we all experience it the same. Well, not the same, but we all experience it nonetheless. And as a whole, in many cases, our efforts to prevent such losses, which In many cases, there are efforts. They're futile. This is inherently so in the cases of mortality, but what is almost always afforded to us is the choice of how we react. It's perfectly normal to mourn. It's in a way even expected of you, regardless of the nature of the loss, be it death or a breakup. And it may feel like things are never going to revert to how they were, but I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta remember that time is gonna roll on and life with it, and at some point, brother, you gotta hop on the chuck wagon too. For the past month or so, I've been enveloped in the novel Lonesome Dove. It's a beautiful epic set in the late 1800s American West, and there's been so many impactful and notable conversations, and a couple of quotes I've jotted down, but the first one that stopped me in my tracks followed the death of a side character, of whom we didn't really see a whole lot of, and of whom I'm not going to name, in interest of not spoiling. But following the burial of said side character, one of the main characters, and a personal favorite of mine, actually, the personal favorite of mine, Augustus McCrae, says to the mourning brother of the departed, quote, "There's nothing you can do but kick your horse," end quote. And that closes the chapter. They move on down the trail, and that just hit me in the heart. It's a simple, laconic, and perceptibly detached interaction between the two characters. But I think it's a quote that many of us could benefit from telling ourselves, or from having someone else tell us. And I'm not meaning to imply that you have to move on from loss quickly. In many instances, doing so isn't even the best plan of action. But we just cannot let loss devour us, as I've seen it do to so many people, and even more significantly, as I've personally experienced. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, at least when it comes to big changes in our lives, and I think loss is no different. Every loss is in itself a tragedy, some way, somehow, but at the same time, loss has been part of the human condition since dawn of man. Your girlfriend just broke up with you over text? Well, partner, do recall, old Jebediah's wife absolved their marriage over messenger pigeon. I mean, nothing is new. It just takes on a different form. But jokes aside, what I'm saying is that every single human before you has experienced loss in their own right. Even the most powerful of historic figures, or even the most humble of men, they have all experienced loss. If nothing else, they have lost their life, as is guaranteed of us all. And it's for this reason, especially, that it is so important to take control of how you react to loss. You can sit there and wallow, or you can pony up, kick your horse, and get on with it. In other words, you can let loss control the direction of your life, you can let it control how you react, or you can take charge and understand that loss does not define you, and you cannot let it. And I'd even go as far as to say that you have the power to define each loss, rather than it being the other way around. Once again, your girlfriend broke up with you? It sucks. It's going to suck. But what did that loss teach you about partners and romantic relationships? What insight did you gain from that loss about your own behavior as a partner? Or let's say you lost a close friend, someone you thought you knew and trusted. What did this teach you about the kind of people you surround yourself with? Someone you love departed from this life? This especially sucks. But how can you live on to honor that person? Though I will concede that, with death especially, often there is not a whole lot to be gained. This is one where loss is especially easy for it to define you. But coming to grips with the fact that it's infallible in a natural process of our life cycle, that's what I would remind yourself of, and focus on honoring their memory, and also preserving the good memories you have of said person. And if nothing else, let experience death teach you to value the people still around, as well as your own time that you have left. But other than death, I think there's always nuance with loss. Always. There's times in my life where I experienced a loss, and coming off it, it's the worst time of your life. Then way later down the road, I'm talking years, I come to realizations and I'm like, oh wait, no, that was actually incredible, I needed that. Like, that pushed me forward. And in some cases, the nuance is going to be much harder to find. but we'll never take heed of said nuance unless we move on when the time is right. As with suffering deaths in your life, or losing a partner you thought might be the one, well, as you kick your horse, you keep on living your life and doing what's best for you. I think hindsight will prove to you that there was something to learn from that loss. And the timeline is different case by case. But eventually I like to reflect on losses and try and pull something from them. I primarily like to analyze my own behaviors, not necessarily critique the behaviors of others. That just leads to a bitter soul. But yeah, look at your own behaviors, your own mindset at the time. Compare that to where you are now. If there's no meaningful change, then I think a similar loss is looming around the corner. And personally, I'd take that as my cue to start working on whatever I thought was a highlighted personal flaw. But hope that sat well with you. Hope you learned something, and I hope you enjoyed. Till next time, take care.